Hello and yes, welcome back to another video, guys. That's right, today we're back to talk about the latest blockbuster superhero movie, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now that's right, it seems like there's a superhero blockbuster out every month these days. This is an interesting one though, because I actually really quite enjoyed the first Shazam because it had this very grounded charm to it. And it felt a little bit different to a lot of the other superhero films that were coming out. So anyway, let's see if the sequel can hold up as well. So this story continues the story of the teenage Billy Batson, who becomes Shazam by saying the word Shazam and transforms into his adult superhero alter ego. And throughout this movie, you can see him coming to terms with his power, with his family, and at the same time, there is a new threat emerging. So yeah, it sounds very similar to the first film. The first film is just him coming to grips with his power, whereas here it's all of them as a family learning to use their powers after the events of the first film. And meanwhile, there is a threat, building up throughout the first act of the movie. Just like the first film, how Mark Strong wasn't really connected. He come into it later on in the film. Sort of similar here. I'd say the villains come into it a bit earlier in this one. They definitely feel like they have more of a presence than Mark Strong's villain did in the first film. But, it follows that very similar structure. And for me, I was fine with that. I wanted Shazam to stay the way, to keep the charm that it very much had in that first movie. And I'd say for the first two acts of this film, it does. While it is a messy film, there's so much going on in this movie that the structure of it is a bit messy, and I think it could have been tightened up. Saying that, I still had fun with the first two acts because this film does have that charm. Zachary Levi is fantastic in this role, and I think along with that, all the other adult heroes are also doing a great job bouncing off one another, and I really like that the actors as well playing these adults embody that of their younger selves for the most part. Like, there's the young girl, Darla, I think her name is. She's the youngest one, but then when she's her superhero self, obviously it's an adult, but she's still talking like a 8-year-old would. And I really like that. I think it recaptures that charm that the first one had. And the dialogue between them's a lot of fun. I think the villains are kind of weak in this one. I actually somehow preferred Mark Strong's villain from the first one, even though I wasn't a huge fan of him. But here, they just don't seem super threatening until the final act of the movie. They're sort of just mooching about just after something, and the, Shazam family, I guess that's what we're going to call them, are trying to stop them from getting something. And as I say, I think while the first two acts work well, it's messy, but it works. You can have fun with it. I think for me, it all kind of comes crushing down in the final act. This film does what a lot of superhero films do, and in some cases, it works well. Some heroes need that big explosive final. I don't know if Shazam does. I know he's like a god. He's got these over-the-top incredible powers. But I think at the end of the day, because, it's a kid inside and the world it's set in, I think a more grounded approach to the ending would have been better. This film goes big and hard, like world-threatening stuff, like the whole world would be watching. There's monsters running around everywhere. It goes huge. And one thing which I sort of give Marvel a bit of credit for lately is you always have this thing with these films now when they're in connected worlds. Like, why didn't Batman show up? Why didn't Superman show up? Why didn't Wonder Woman show up? What Marvel does quite well at the minute is Ant-Man goes down to the quantum realm. No one can help him. Doctor Strange in the multiverse. No one can help him. Thor's on another planet. The Guardians are on another planet. Blah, 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 blah. Here, with DC at the minute, all these heroes are on Earth. And with something as big as what's happening in this movie, you do wonder, where is Superman? Where's Wonder Woman? Where are they at? Why aren't they helping? This is like a huge event here. So there is that to it. And I think that's where this film really lost me. Because the charm of the first Shazam is how grounded and self-contained it was. And this film, in its final act, decides to go balls to the wall and goes massive. And I just don't think it worked for this character super well. And I don't think it's as I say, his powers, it seems like it would work well for him. But I think it's just because, inside it's a kid, it doesn't work as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. And I'll say this though, the CGI, the effects for the most part is pretty good. And a lot of the monster designs are cool. But again, it just feels really choppy, really slapped together. And some of the dialogue is terrible. There's a bit involving some unicorns and they throw Skittles at it to try and tame it or something. And I literally went over to my mate in the cinema and went, taste the rainbow. And then a second later, a character says that. Like, the dialogue got really, really rocky in that final act. There was a lot of cheesy lines, a lot of cheesy things happening. And that whole final act for me was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. But it's a shame because the first two acts I was having a lot of fun with and I was vibing with the movie. I was like, this is good, this is fine, this is kind of what I expected. A lot was happening. We knew a lot was going to happen from the trailers. And that's another problem I will say, the trailers do give a lot away. But anyway, the characters themselves, as I say, I really like Zachary Levi in this role. I think he is fantastic as Shazam. I'm not sure about the kid who plays him because he seems a lot more mellow. There seems to be a bit of a personality difference when he changes. All the other ones seem to line up a lot better. I thought the villains were pretty weak. They're new villains. I don't know why they've done that. DC have loads of comic villains, sorry. I don't know how many Shazam has, but surely he has more than Mark Strong and the Caterpillar. So I was sort of hoping that, you know, they could have done a better villain here, really. But Helen Mirren, she looks like she's having fun. She's not giving one of her best performances, obviously. She's got some incredible performances under her belt. And I thought the other two were fine in it. They just were sort of there. They didn't seem to be that threatening, to be honest. They bring the wizard back, as people know. One of the better parts about the film, to be honest. I thought that, I can't pronounce his name, but that guy was pretty good in the film. But yeah, I don't really have loads more to say on it. The trailers pretty much give more or less everything away. The first two acts are messy but fun. They're definitely fun. I had a more pleasant time with this film than negative, I'll say. But then, yeah, the final act, it just all comes crashing down. And it's a real shame because, you know, I like the first Shazam and I was enjoying the first two acts. But yeah, just the ending, it was just too much for me. I hope we see Shazam again in a way. I hope he gets a final third film. I don't think it's going to happen now because of the James Gunn reboot. And to be honest, if I was James Gunn's position, I would wipe the board completely clean. But considering he's carrying some characters over from the Suicide Squad and whatnot, if they're going to carry any other characters over, I hope it is Shazam, to be fair. He's my favourite of all of the, you know, big Justice League members that we've had in the DCEU so far. But anyway, I'm going to give this film... I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I really wanted to give it more than that. And look, 6 is still positive for me. 5's middle of the road. So, yeah, I'll sum up by saying the film was okay. It was okay. But anyway, there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review as always. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a message. And as always, I'll see you next time for another video. Bye-bye.